Incidentally, Jeff Forrest visits a Lake Michigan community in our area, and his Name That Town series continues. Watch, see if you can guess.
The streets in this city of 2,800 lead to the waters of Lake Michigan. For more than 600 years, the Potawatomi Indians had a large village on this hill, which overlooks the present city, as do the many seagulls. The city boasts this beautiful marina, which is located at the mouth of a river that goes into Lake Michigan. This particular site was once a fur trading post back in 1796. There was rumored to be gold in this area. In 1836, John Jacob Astor found out about the area and platted a city larger than Chicago. But the plans for that city were dropped when the gold was found to be fool's gold. Few seem to agree on what the city's name really means. Some say it means go round. Others say wild duck. But the most popular belief is we are lost.
The Indians on shore would yell this word.
To who?
To the Indians out on the boat, out in the canoes in the lake.
When they were lost, or? When
they were lost in the fog.
And when the Indians yelled, they said Kewaunee. Jeff Forrest, Action 2 News, Kewaunee.
McDonald. Tonight, Jeff Forrest continues his month-long series, Name That Town, with a visit to a historic valley community.
This community is perhaps best known for its many locks and dams and unique structures like the Veterans Memorial Bridge. Filled with natural beauty, the Menominee Indians named the community with a word meaning the place where the fish stop. Augustin Grigno was part of this community's founding family. In fact, his son's home is a historic site along the banks of the Fox River. This spot where I'm standing is part of the first land ever deeded in the state of Wisconsin. It was purchased from the Menominee Indians back in 1793 by this area's first white settler, Dominic Ducharme. He purchased 40 French arpents along the Fox River, measuring 3 miles deep. The asking price was 3 barrels of rum.
This is the oldest community in Algoma County. It was the family, the Grigno family, has legend that they were trading at this spot as early as 1760.
The area that the Indians called Kaukauna, the white settlers called Kaukauna. Jeff Forrest, Action 2 News, Kaukauna.
I didn't. Jeff Forrest visits a local community with Indian origins in tonight's segment of Name That Town. Watch.
The East Twin River is a favorite fishing hole, and the spot where this village began. In 1844, pioneer Daniel Smith started up a sawmill here. Today, 1,500 folks call this village their home. However, from 1853 through 1855, the community's large Saxon population changed the name to Saxonburg, only to return to the original name. So where did this village get its name? Well, legend has it it's named after a great Ottawa Indian chief. The English translation of his name is supposed to mean hairy legs. Others actually believe it means a place of shelter.
Dictionaries and things that it is a place of shelter, as far as
Where do you think this hairy legs thing came from then?
I have no idea. Somebody along the way
Makes for good conversation.
Good conversation, right.
Perhaps the village's best known feature is this 45-hole golf course and resort. If you haven't guessed yet, the Ottawa Indian chief's name was Mishicot. Jeff Forrest, Action 2 News, Mishicot.
Oh, you know. Well, as our month-long Name That Town series continues, let's see if you can guess which town Jeff is visiting tonight.
Nicolet surely wouldn't recognize this area that he claimed for France when he paddled up the Fox River from Green Bay in 1634. The first permanent settlers, the Johnston family, didn't arrive until 1848 or so. They set up a thriving general store, what is now the heart of this city's bustling downtown. This city was really the inspiration of 2 wealthy Boston businessmen, one by the name of Amos, who wanted to build a college here and did in 1847 in what was then a wilderness area. His father-in-law, Samuel, gave him $10,000 to build a library on campus, and why Amos was so grateful, he named the town after Samuel.
As far as I understand, these men never came to the Fox Valley area, never came to this area at all. Both of them lived in Boston and did it purely as a philanthropic gesture.
The school in the wilderness is now the beautiful campus of Lawrence College. Its founder, Amos Lawrence. Amos's father-in-law was Samuel Appleton. Jeff Forrest, Action 2 News, Appleton.
John Milton, I'm told. As our month-long series Name That Town continues, Jeff Forrest reports on a lakeshore community with an inauspicious beginning.
The beauty and serenity of Lake Michigan at the doorstep of this city's 32,000 residents. A city where business and pleasure seem to mix. A city with a rich maritime history. Much of the credit belongs to three people. Chief Mexico, as he was called, who negotiated many early treaties between the Indians and white settlers, and Benjamin and Electa Jones, the designated mother and father of this city. This river flows through the city. It empties into Lake Michigan. This was once all a swampland here. Chippewa Indians used to spear whitefish. They called it Moonadauk, or the Spirit Land. The first white settlers arrived here in 1836 aboard a sailing vessel. 5 lumbermen sent here to clear the densely wooded lands.
And when they saw the forest and the harsh-looking wilderness, 3 of the 5 went back to Sheboygan the same day. So it was kind of a rough start for the village.
Chief Mexico, Benjamin, and Electa would be amazed by how much their little settlement of Manitowoc has grown. Jeff Forrest, Action 2 News, Manitowoc.
And in fact, Jeff Forrest visits a community in our area in tonight's segment of Name That Town.
This community's fishing village looks like the perfect scene for a Hollywood movie. The lighthouse is picturesque. This winery is a popular tourist attraction. Abraham Hall built a sawmill and general store here along the banks of the Anape River in 1852. The sawmill pilings are still there in the shadows of the stacks of a large hardwoods company. The community's name is said to mean Rosie Hill. The man who first discovered this area landed here on the sands of Lake Michigan. He came here in 1834. His name was Joseph McCormick, aboard a sailing schooner from Manitowoc. He found a thickly wooded area. He told folks back in Manitowoc what he had found here. And by 1851, there was a permanent settlement.
It was originally called Wolf River, and then it was called Anape, which in Indian means gray wolf. And in, I believe it was 1896, the name was changed
to Algoma. Jeff Forrest, Action 2 News, Algoma.
And as our series Name That Town continues, Jeff Forrest visits an area community in this area with Polish ties. Watch.
Only 20 minutes from Green Bay, this community of 1,800 seems bigger than that. It's home to this Polish National Catholic Church and one of the largest and most beautiful churches anywhere in northeastern Wisconsin, right in the center of downtown. Many of the community's residents work right in the village, building world-famous pleasure boats. In the 1800s, a Milwaukee businessman by the name of J.J. Hoff bought up a lot of land in this area. He was a Norwegian, but for some reason, he wanted to attract the Polish people to the area. So he named it after a famous Polish Revolutionary War general. His name was Count Kazimir.
He contributed some land to the church. I guess his intent was that if a church were established, the people who were quite religious would settle in the area and in the village.
This bust of the community's namesake rests in the elementary school library. The bust of Revolutionary War hero Kazimir Pulaski. Jeff Forrest, Action 2 News, Pulaski.
Tonight's segment of Name That Town, Jeff visits an area city named by the early French traders.
This old lighthouse is perhaps the most recognized symbol in this city of 35,000. It anchors Lakeside Park and provides a breathtaking view of Lake Winnebago. One weekend each year, this marina is filled with fishermen looking for walleyes. It's also home of the historic Galloway House and Victorian Village. The city was established in 1852. The Menominee Indians had an early village along the shore of Lake Winnebago here. They called it Wanakamu, or something close to that. French explorers who came down from the Green Bay area used 3 words to name the area, 3 short words, meaning foot of the lake.
We were one of the largest cities in Wisconsin prior to the Civil War, and were considered to be in running to be the state capital. In fact, James Doty wanted to make this state capital.
And the French translation for this community at the foot or bottom of Lake Winnebago is Fond du Lac. Jeff Forrest, Action 2 News, Fond du Lac.
And that's it tonight. Jeff Forrest visits a community known for its Norwegians as our series Name That Town continues.
This is the south branch of the Little Wolf River. Thanks to the dam, the river widens to form a scenic pond. And near that pond, the old Whiff's flour mill is now a museum. Not far away, a busy downtown district. And station number 66, Depot and Caboose. Nearly 1,000 people make this their home. 200 people work at Krause Publications, the largest employer. A nearby field will be filled with antique cars come this summer.
The area where this village is was thought to have been named back in 1829 after a Potawatomi Indian princess. Her father was Old Redbird, and her uncle was Chief Wapaka. Now, some 50 years later, the area became known for its large Norwegian population. Apparently, the Norwegians found it to be much like their own homeland.
They were more interested in getting the land and producing, but they had a hard time making a living, so very often they went to cutting down trees and working at the mills.
Chief Wapaka's niece and Old Redbird's daughter was Princess Iola. Jeff Forrest, Action 2 News, Iola.
Thank you, Jeff. Obviously. In tonight's segment of Name That Town, Jeff Forrest visits an area community with a diverse economy and rich history.
100 folks in this community don't want for much. They have their own college, anchored by East Hall, the city's oldest building, built in 1851. If they need a major appliance, Speed Queen is right down the road. And for the sweet tooth, there's even a cookie factory outlet. But the most notable feature may be this little white schoolhouse. It's the birthplace of the Republican Party.
In 1844, a group calling themselves the Fourierites began a communal-type settlement here. It lasted only 4 years, however. But in 1848, two men by the name of Mapes and Horner arrived. They organized this into a community. It was Horner who got to choose the name, and he named it after his own hometown in England.
David P. Mapes was a steamboat captain on the Fox River. His friend, John Scott Horner, was the area's territorial governor. They were apparently quite a team.
These guys knew what they were doing. They built mills, and they built dams and ponds and did all these things necessary, and they attracted people.
Horner's hometown in England was Ripon. Jeff Forrest, Action 2 News, Ripon.
Great cookies. Tonight in the final part of a series Name That Town, Jeff Forrest visits a local village that he's a little bit partial to.
There's a great pond here to catch northerns. Carp and salmon love to spawn below this dam. The big business around here is agriculture. There's a feed mill and a farm supply store downtown. The village hall and library share a building. In the 1880s, many Germans settled here in what was then a heavily forested area. There were Norwegian and Belgian communities on either side.
It was a wild forest area, that's what it was.
And then did they clear the trees out? Or?
Well, yes, the farmers cleared the land, and there's still woods around there, you know. Some, not much, but pretty well cleared. It kept to be all real good farmland.
During the past 4 weeks, I've visited many interesting communities with unique histories. But this last one has to be my favorite. A special place in my heart. Forestville. It was named after my great-great-great-grandfather. You know, I don't know how many times I've told them, there's 2 R's in Forest. It's a thought that counts. Jeff Forrest, Action 2 News, Forestville.